We are going to try this again, and we're going to keep all of the shitty energy away from us for this one. I don't know if it's sleeping or what, but whatever it's doing, it can keep doing somewhere away from me. Because I'm trying to get on my shit. I'm trying. We got 4 cards that came out with this. I'm going to also whoop. Whoop, 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 whoop. Crazy. Okay, so we have the Wheel of Fortune in the upright, Lord of the Forces of Life. We have the Two of Pentacles in the upright, Lord of Harmonious Change. We have the Sun in the reverse, Lord of the Fire of the World. And we also have Justice in the reverse, which is Daughter of the Lord of the Truth. Daughter of the Lord of Truth, not the truth, all truth. Okay. They are clarified here by Queen of Pentacles in the upright, Temperance in the reverse, the World in reverse, and 3 of Cups in reverse. Okay, so the Wheel of Fortune in the upright, Lord of the Forces of Life, being clarified by the Queen of Pentacles. That's all good and positive. That's fine. Okay, then we have 2 of Pentacles, which is a union of this, clarified by Temperance in the reverse. Just almost that union and balance is being clarified by a lack of balance and a lack of patience. For serious, bro? A piece of my hair came off in my mouth. It's a whole bunch of dried berries. It's fine. Okay, so I am recognizing that I have this problem with as soon as something seems negative, or it seems like it's not going the way that I am comfortable with, or a way that I can recognize, or a way that I am in control of, in the sense that not that I'm in control of the way, but that I'm in control of myself in the way, when it seems like I'm being like led in a different direction. And I've done this, I've been through this so many times. Oh, so many times. This is constant. Okay. What I was reflecting on earlier before I did this was this idea of working so hard to come out of hell just to be on earth at all in any genuine fashion, right? And so there's all of this work that needs to be done in order to actually get to paradise. And so it's kind of not letting myself get into that energy of like, but I already did enough. Isn't this enough? Why isn't this enough? Because it isn't. I could settle here, but this isn't where I want to be. You know, I don't want to settle. I continue to want to strive for greater. For the great, I want to strive for the greatest. I want the very best in my life. Which means I can't settle. You know, so it's not like it's being done to me. It's being done for me. And it's about embracing that. And so I block myself by having this energy of like, oh, you're telling me that we have to go through another cycle? Like, yeah, idiot, that's all there is. And you're not trying to stay here. So like, yeah, you're jumping aboard another cycle. That's literally what you asked for. Why are you complaining? Quit looking at it negatively. The world is in reverse. But that's what you asked for. Lord of the fire of the world. There's two women dancing, holding hands and dancing, spinning around in the light of the sun. And it's like that, like, you know, you're looking for this union and it's in the upright, but it's being clarified by temperance in the reverse, which is like, this feeling that there isn't harmony. But that's only because the world is in reverse. And even if the world were in the upright, the world in the upright is just... now the world is your oyster, right? You have like every opportunity you could possibly imagine. The reason it's in the reverse, the reason these things are in the reverse, the reason that there's this feeling of disunity in that is because justice is in the reverse. Justice here is being balanced by the feminine and Saturn. I'm noticing these moon cycles on the card. Let's see where we're at right now in our moon cycle. You'd think I would know. Normally, my entire body is very strict on the moon cycles, but that hasn't been the case for a minute. I haven't been able to get on point with any of my shit, and it's building a frustration in me, and, you know, I have this, like, concept of my alchemy that is, of my alchemizing, you know, that is like, every time that the cycle moves around to the point where like you see some sort of negativity, it's meant to be transmuted into something positive in order to complete the cycle and create the sense of resolution. And I have been being taught recently that like it's different than that. My concept of there being, yes, I've been able to balance that thing, those things that way, but like there's this new level, this weird level that I'm on right now, like, it's for the greater balance of things. And, like, I need to not look so limitedly at it. Because when I do, I'm having these expectations of this sense of resolution that are simply not part of this level. They're not cohesive or congruent, rather, to where I'm at right now. It's so hard to embrace, but like where I'm at right now and what I'm supposed to be doing right now, like, is seemingly something that on the surface appears to be almost in direct opposition to my ultimate goals. And like, how can I embrace that? I keep mentioning this in my readings, but it's like that concept of like, how am I supposed to account for what I'm not supposed to be measuring? How am I supposed to observe what by observing is measuring? If I'm supposed to remove myself from the sense of measuring, then I can't possibly observe it. And if I'm not observing it, how can I trust it? I know better than that. I do know better than that. But it's just this weird balance. I've learned to be able to trust my own senses when it comes to walking through a time and period in your life with your eyes closed. When there's different things that aren't being revealed to you right yet, you have to be able to trust and move in specific directions based on your intuition alone, not on necessarily what's being shown to you. And I've been learning this to be able to be in this position at all. And I wouldn't be in this position at all if it weren't for my capacity to be able to overcome it and make the most of it and turn it into something truly golden. That point of alchemy still exists in this not just this reality, but in this specific position. But there's like this other aspect that I'm supposed to be applying that I don't fully understand, and that's part of it. I'm not supposed to understand it. I'm literally being asked to apply without understanding, and that is very difficult for me. I tend to be a pretty prideful person in that way, and I'm willing to be humbled, but there's this fear that comes right in tow with that of being brought down, not humbled by the divine, but lowered to a lower vibration by the sense of defeat or self-doubt, or being given into lower vibrations, which I know is not what this is about. It's kind of like when you go into the lower levels in Mario, it's a different space. It is a lower level, but it's still applying all of the education that you have gained in the upper levels. And mostly, like, that's the weird thing about it too, because like in the upper levels in Mario, like, a lot of the lower levels in Mario are like, even some of the highest levels are like that too, though, where like it's not even about like, there's not a specific mission being applied there. It's not to get to the end. It's like you're going into those just for like either a bit of respite to gain a bunch of coins, or there's like certain doors and stuff you can go through. Really, that's what it feels like. It's like one of these lower levels I've entered into in order to find a trap door that actually leads you into this whole other realm that is a darker realm. Potentially even like within Bowser's castle, right? Like it's a low realm with some of those lower enemies and energies, and more they tend to be more powerful in that space, and so it becomes something more complex than you generally would have gone through had you not gone through this trapdoor. But when you complete it, you end up like lifetimes ahead. It moves you quicker through the game, and you gain like this different sense of abundance. And it's a weird one because I feel myself feeling this sense of like being aware of that, and thus I'm aware of like the things, I'm like watching the things that like I'm missing out on in that way. Where it's like, oh, but you get to hear the pleasant music when you're on top, and you get to like continue applying very like systematically the things that you've learned. And there's like this sense of, when you go into this lower realm and through these trapdoors, like it feels very like it makes you feel like not yourself. You don't quite feel like yourself. It takes a lot more to be in that energy and to feel like yourself. And oftentimes you have to go through those spaces like so much more, those karmic cycles like so much more, again and again and again and again, in order to gain the ultimate power in them and to feel confident moving through them, so that you know what to establish when. I mean, sometimes in them, like, you have to, like, you learn that it's best to be in those spaces, like, in your fire energy, or in your, like, when you're fire Mario, or when you're raccoon Mario, you know, like those types of things. Maybe going in there with a star, you find that, like, okay, it's best if I don't go through those spaces without a star. But right now I'm feeling like I don't have an option. I'm already in that space. And like, anytime I die, like, I'm just restarting in this space. I don't get to go out of this space. There isn't a pipe for me to go out to get back on top, like there always has been. Like, I literally have to go through this. And it's not that I'm unwilling, but I do feel this sense of fear that, like, I guess I'm just not fully willing to embrace or admit. And it's difficult as well in that space, because it's not even that I'm not willing to reach out for help. It's like, who the fuck do I even ask? You know, I have these trust issues for a reason. Like, I'm well aware that, like, unless it's somebody that's really, like, doing the same thing I'm doing and has the same end goals that I do, like, it's not somebody I should necessarily be asking for help, because they simply don't understand. They don't understand the importance of why I'm even in this space to begin with. They'd be quick to maybe find a way out rather than find a way through, sort of deal. So I'm weary of asking advice from just anyone. And weary of receiving, wary, I suppose, of receiving advice from, you know, just anyone willing to give it. There's a lot of people around that may say different things, but again, like, you know, there's a reason I'm here, and there's something to be gained here. There's this huge reward in it, but it's like, and there's something so simple I have to do in order to move into this next degree, but I don't know what that is. I don't exactly know what that is, and I do feel like I'm fighting. And at the same time, I'm like fighting to not fight. I'm fighting to make sure that I'm not given to the wrong things. And I'm also feeling like I'm fighting to stand for the right things. But like, there's this weird discrepancy. There's just this tiny little keyhole. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what the key is. I can't tell. If I knew what the key was, I would understand the door better, because it's almost like the keys almost tend to have a symbol on them that, like, lets you know which door they work on and what to expect behind that door. At least to some degree. The more you understand the symbol, the more that you can understand those things. I have a lot of keys, but none of them are for this specific door. I actually see the door itself, and I can't figure out where the key is. And it's almost like that. Like, I went into this trapdoor in order to find the key, because that's where it is, and I know that's where it is. So I was led into it confidently, because it was like, just trust that there's a point for this. This is where you're going to find these things. And I'm not trying to be blocked off. And I'm certainly not trying to be given to fear. I am struggling, though, to figure out all of these different things. It's like a giant math problem, you know. Once you get that one proper integer, everything else falls into place. And the problem practically solves itself. I've set it up that way. I've done very good that way, and I know that I have. I know, but it's just getting this one integer. And I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it is. Today's current moon phase for today and tonight is waning gibbous. During this phase, the moon can be seen in the early morning daylight hours. Hold on, I want to actually look at it. Because waning means a lot of things, but that means it's not a half moon. No. Illumination, 89%. But we're moving into less illumination. Ah. I can feel that. And like, you can tell how intense this is by how just yesterday it was at 95%. And in the last 2 days, I have felt incredibly, the density of things has increased so significantly, and my capacity to be able to feel, like to be able to see through these things has greatly decreased. To go from 95% to 89%, well, that's only 6. Actually, it's going to be even more. It's getting harder. It's actually getting harder. It's getting worse. Okay, hold on. I don't want this. Let me go back to this page. And then it goes to 73%. Then it goes to 63%. Then it goes to 53%. And it goes to 44%. Then to 34%. Where's the new moon? Hold on, I need to see what day the new moon is on, because holy shit. This is 2 weeks of insanity. I've been told to prepare myself. I am preparing myself. I'm literally on both of these timelines at once, though. I was told that one of the timelines is being told right now to prepare themselves for a work that's to be done, while one of the timelines is being told to prepare themselves to receive of the good that is to come. I'm aware that that's where I'm at. But I'm also aware that, like, I'm not just being given the key so that I can open the door and be like, paradise, this is where I'm at, now I can finally rest. Yes, that's part of it, to a degree. Things are meant to be so much easier for me. Things are meant to fall into alignment where, like, I can breathe freely. I don't have to have this paranoia. I don't have to have these concerns with my intimate relationships, or, these concerns with what does it have to be. I will see things much more clearly. But that does not mean that my work is going to be done. I have chosen to continue to do a great work, and to move these things forward. I've been called to bring in the new world, and that is what I'm doing. So I'm not looking for some, like, cruise on out of here necessarily, right? It's a balance of these things. The new moon isn't until December 1st. So come in December, I'll be able to start seeing the benefit of these things, But it's not just about holding on until that point either. It's very much about making the most until that time. Making the most. Continuing to alchemize, but I'm also being taught, like, something incredibly new. It's not just doing things the way I've always done them before. So with this 3 of Cups in the reverse, with Justice in the reverse, it's like, this is all just telling me that it's not yet. It's not yet. Keep pushing. And it's just like I said, like I was reflecting today, where I'm like, I've been through every level of hell. I've been through all 9 of the levels. I've been through every single level, and I've endured, and I have remained faithful, and I've continued to do my work, and I've continued to remain positive, and I've continued to give of myself in love and in grace and in strength, and I continue pushing forward. So I reached this level, even just this year, really. It kind of started coming in last year. I've reached this level of, like, okay, I finally made it to Earth. To Earth. Like, I have yet to even begin climbing this mountain. So much of it is actually just being built for me, to be honest. The foundations are being laid for me in the work that I've already done, these foundations are already being laid so that I can get there. In the depiction of hell that I saw today, it was actually a depiction of earth and hell, and it was all 9 layers of hell leading up to the base core of earth, leading up into a kingdom, and at the top of this kingdom is a castle. Those foundations are already being laid that way. But now that I'm at this base level, there's still plenty of work that I have to do socially before I get to that top, right? And before I get into that space of my true kingdom. It isn't here yet. I can see that. I trust that it is here. It is here. It's mine. It's just not the time for me to be there yet. There's still more work that has to be done before I'm there. So it's like, as tired as I can be, and I'm trying to give myself a proper rest, but I'm also trying not to give in to this feeling of like, in my rest, time is continuing to pass, and I'm falling further and further behind somehow, and I'm losing track of like how to stay on top of things. 2 months ago, I felt like I was on top of everything, and suddenly I don't feel that way at all. And it's like, I've worked to not let so many of these different energies in that have been trying to dissuade me and trying to confuse me and trying to block me from being able to look forward. I can still see where it is I am being called to go. And I'm still moving in that direction. But I'm also being told to give myself a rest. And it's just, I have been. And in that state of rest, I've also found like all of these other things coming up. Like I had said like a month ago, like I was in this place where I could finally actually be at rest for the first time in my life. I wasn't concerned about the people around me. I wasn't concerned about the environment that I was in. I wasn't concerned that I was like actively in a place where I needed to be looking over my shoulder and afraid of what might happen at night and all of these different things. And it was because it was the first time I'd ever experienced that. Like it was incredibly overwhelming. And it took a lot for me to be able to find any sense of comfort in that space. And I was expecting that as soon as I would find any comfort in that space, that right in tow with that comfort would come my drive to then continue to make the most of that, and then to push myself forward and to propel myself into this thing. And I've seen all of these opportunities now within the past couple weeks for propelling myself forward. I mean, it has all been laid out before me, but I haven't been able to receive of any of those things truly because there's this trepidation that those aren't the right things for me. And I've been reminded that it's not about seeing those things and being able to trust and believe in those things. It's about knowing myself and moving with what's true in my heart and then just going forward that way. But I'm confused in that space. I'm still confused in that space. I'm still learning to forgive. Because there is a lot in my heart that is taking up space that doesn't deserve to be there. And a lot of that is this weird embitterment that like I've worked so hard to not let phase me, but like that still exists in the sense that like, not that I believe that I deserved so much better ever or anything like that. Like, it's not so personal like that. It's still this, like, bitterness that such things exist in the world. Like, this is the new world. I'm not supposed to be seeing those things. But I'm seeing those things because they're still in my heart. That's why I'm not there yet either. It's not that they do exist. It's that I'm validating that they exist at all. I'm still alchemizing those things. And I am struggling with it because I still I'm just given to this sense of loss. It still hits my heart so deeply. I don't want to suppress those feelings. I'm not trying to internalize those feelings. I do not want them to be a part of my identity. I want to be able to observe without absorbing. I want to be able to move through this world with grace and without having to command and having to identify by and having to find my value in anything externally. So I'm learning to trust. This is all just like this weird, it's not even weird, it's just hard. A hard lesson in trust and faith. Things rarely look like what we anticipate. You know, we have this natural tendency to anticipate things in order to be able to prepare ourselves. It's a survival tactic in order to be able to know what to look out for, so that we know to not fall into certain holes, and so that we know which doors to go through. But there comes so many times where, like, you're actively called to, like, forsake all of that and just go on faith. And like I said, like, it feels like I'm moving through life right now with a bag over my head, being directed by my intuition alone, and having to learn how to not trust these other voices that are like, just come this way and we'll take that bag off. Just come this way, this is where the light is. Just come through this door, just follow my voice. When it's like, no, you're not my guide. You're not my guide. It's that small, still voice inside of me that keeps pushing me forward. Don't settle. This isn't it yet. These aren't the right things. But the more that I reject, the more that I fear that I'm potentially, you know, closing myself off to what could possibly be meant for me. And how do you know? How do you know? How can you trust these things? You don't trust these things. You trust yourself. You trust your connection to the universe. You trust the universe. You trust your guide. You trust your God. You don't rely on your own understanding of these things. Because your own understanding is what's confused. Your own understanding is what's making it like, you know. But I love these people, and I love these things, and I care about this, and I care about that. That's all great and good. But that's not what it's about. It's so much beyond that. The only reason I'm allowed to see shit is just for me to feel some type of way. But that doesn't really mean anything or matter anything ultimately. What matters is just that I trust, and that I continue to move in the directions that I am called to move. That I continue to do what I am called to do, even if it doesn't make sense. And I have been struggling. Because I want it to make sense, or because it's just so heavy. It's this feeling of like, I know that I'm strong because I've lifted so much. I can lift 500 pounds over my head. Carrying these groceries up the stairs should not feel so difficult. But it's that sense that like, but why should I have to carry all of this? Because I'm strong, because I can. But shouldn't everybody else be getting to this point themselves? Like, so that they can also carry these things, so that it isn't just all on those that are willing to do the work, but we're all doing a work, that we're all living in some sort of balance. But who am I to sit here and command such of everyone else, right? Maybe that isn't what's for everybody else. Maybe that isn't what's going to bring the balance. I don't know. I mean, I do see a future where everybody is responsible for themselves, truly. But at the same time, there's such a natural state of things in which we're all just responsible for everyone else. And, you know, we truly can't even survive without there being a balance of those things. So I'm not trying to demonize that in any sort of way, and I do believe I have a tendency to, in my own victimization mindsets, you know, my own capacity to just feel like I don't want to have to be strong enough. You know, that's ego getting in the way of the reality that I have literally done the work to be this strong for a reason. You know, I'm not like one of those dudes going to the gym and pumping up steroids as much as I pump iron just so that I can have these big, showy muscles just so I can walk around and show people how lumpy I am. That isn't my point in strength. My point in strength has been to be able to carry things and to do a very specific type of work that I know only few are ever capable of. And I've embraced that. So I don't want my ego getting in the way of that, even when it gets hard. And it's been hard. That's my thing. It's been hard. It hasn't relented. I've just continued to get stronger and stronger through it, and I've just become tired. I've had rest. I have had this rest, and I'm so thankful for it. I don't mean to demand more of it, like this isn't enough. I want to just make the most of it. And I already know that process. I have lived years, if not decades, of my life on minimal sleep, on minimal nutrition, on minimal support. And I've thrived because I've learned how to make the most of very little. But it's like, that's not what's meant for me. That was only meant for me as a process to learn how to take on more and more and more so that I could be given more and more and more and be able to do so much with it. I didn't want to set myself up so that all I could receive was the bare minimum and be able to make the most of it. That isn't my ideal. And I am learning that. And I still find myself arguing that. And that's a problem with my ego. That it's best that I just receive the bare minimum because I'm able to make the most of it. That's not the example I'm trying to set. I've already set that example by showing that you can make the most of those things, but I'm not trying to live there. I'm trying to show that in that process, you can become strong enough that when you receive what you truly deserve, you can rest assured that that's what it is. And I'm just not there yet. So of course the universe isn't going to just gift me everything that I deserve in its greatness when I am not willing to properly receive that yet. And how dare I get upset or frustrated with that, like it isn't me in control. I tell myself so often that my feelings get in the way of things. But the truth of the matter is that my feelings are a part of me, and that when I feel things, it's about leaning into that so that I can understand where those things are coming from, not suppressing it. And truly, it is my feelings that have always directed me, both in and out of the things that are meant for me. I don't mean to view myself as weak for being human. Certainly don't mean to do that. I do not want to add to this idea that something that we can create out of ourselves could ever be more efficient, more pure, more perfect than we are innately. Because I believe that we were created perfectly. I believe that we naturally have every capacity that we could ever need to make this world what it deserves to be for us and by us and through us and for the betterment of all things. I don't want to support this transhumanist idea that we need to be somehow bionic in order to be better. I don't believe that. And I want my legacy to speak on my truest beliefs. But that isn't going to happen if I keep working against myself. If I keep choosing to live and validate concepts that aren't true of me. I got so many conflicts internally, I tell you what. And I'm working to work them out. I'm not trying to be timid about it, but I'm not trying to be forceful either. I'm willing to take my time. I'm willing to release. I'm willing to be patient, but I'm also willing to continue to move forward. Even when I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Even when I don't know exactly what it looks like. I do. When you see the light at the end of the tunnel and you already know what's on the outside of that tunnel, but in the darkness, it just looks like a light. You can't even see outside anymore. All you see is just row after row after row of shadows and darkness and confusion. And that's fine. That's fine. I've lived in this space. I have found so much strength and grace and maturity and love in this space. I know it's not it. I know that I didn't climb through hell just so that I could get to Earth and then that be it. I know that my point here is to climb in the light and to reach those heights, but to also appreciate where I'm at and how much it took to get here and where I've been and what those things mean and how it's all part of something so much grander than myself. I don't want to be limited by my ego, and I certainly don't want to validate it in a way that allows others to invalidate themselves or limit themselves. That is not the example I am trying to set. And so I am humbled and I am reminded of what it is I'm actually doing here and why. It gets so easy to get arrogant. Maybe not for others that, don't struggle with being arrogant. I was raised very narcissistically, and I do struggle with those senses of self and that type of intellectual identity defense. I don't want that to be where my strength is valued, what my strength is valued by, where my identity is determined. I want to release those things entirely, completely. Anytime they come to me, I want to release them. I don't want to be living in that arrogance. I don't want to be moving forward in that arrogance. I do not want these messages to read as me being something, anything greater than anyone else. I only want to be able to show people the truth of themselves so that they can also do the work that they're being called to. Because that's not for me to determine. Obviously, it's not even for me to determine my own, Six of Cups in the reverse. Princess of Swords in the reverse. Queen of Wands in the reverse. I did shuffle these, didn't I? I got these in the same reading before. Six of Cups in the reverse. Clarified by the Four of Wands in the upright. Six of Cups in the reverse. Beautiful, beautiful card. We have lilies and lotuses, and the lotus stems are latticed, like they're woven together in this beautiful lattice work. Looks very Celtic. And out of the lotuses is pouring this water that's filling these cups. It's the Scorpio. It's in the reverse. So it's out of these cups is flowing what has been put in these cups in order to give back to the lotuses in order that they may grow. At the same time, it's a reminder of what you're putting out into the world because karma feeds those things back to you. And I have been calling for judgment, and I have been calling for this karma. So I shouldn't question why I feel the ways that I feel. I have also been asking for this, and I know that it is for my greatest good. I'm aware of that, and I can receive that. And I don't mean to bitch about it. But it is that point. If through me the goodness of life has come, and then come out, and then I receive back unto myself what I have put out, and in it is bits of dirt, bits of ego, bits of limited perspective, I can't be mad at that. That is simply what I've already put out into the world. I have to be willing to receive those things back into me in order to create and maintain an actual balance. This is a symbol of balance for sure. These aren't rooted or grounded in anything outside of themselves and their concepts of themselves. And this is truly like how I see my spirituality and what I want of my spirituality, truly. Not that it isn't grounded or rooted in anything, but that ultimately these concepts, even at their highest, are able to balance each other out, even without their foundation, so that even if the foundation is pulled completely out from under me, they still stand, right? You can't get to that point, like I've said before in other readings too. If you don't know what love truly is, and if you're not able and willing to receive unto yourself your experience as love, and see that it is love, and it is always love, and receive all of those things as love, and if you aren't able to properly receive love, then how can you know that what you're giving to others is love? If you are not receiving it to yourself, then what you have inside of you and what you have to give cannot be it. If you have not received love unto yourself, truly, then you are not able to give of yourself true love, because you do not have it in you. And so when you give somebody your medicine, and then they respond a certain way to it, and you're like, well, what the fuck? And then they give you your medicine back to you, you can't question, oh shit, this isn't really medicine. This is toxic. You have to be willing to accept that. What I was giving was toxic to begin with. All they're giving back is your medicine, right? And to taste your own medicine often is to reveal to yourself that what you've been calling medicine is actually toxin. You know, so you have to be willing to be humble in order to be proud. You cannot be proud of yourself when you haven't been humble enough to recognize that everything you've ever been given has been given because of somebody or something else. Then the pride that you have is truly just arrogance, and it is unfounded. And it will crumble the second that there isn't any solid foundation underneath it. The second that somebody points out the weak spots, it will fall. That isn't actual pride. Something to actually take pride in, you know? It's just blind arrogance. In the same way, we have the Princess of Swords here, the Princess of the Rushing Winds in the reverse, which I went through in a different reading too. I thought I had the Six of Cups, but I think that's the first time I've actually received that card. But this Medusa card is like, is this sense of arrogance, and is being willing to look at things from a different perspective in order to actually defeat what it is you're trying to defeat. Because we have the Knight of Wands here clarifying it, and it's in the reverse. And it's a sense of like just moving forward with passion. You can ignite your passion more and more and more and more, but that's just going to drive you headstrong into a wall if you don't know where it is that you're headed. It's great to have passion, but you have to know what that passion is for. You know, it's great to have a desire to fight things, but if you rush in trying to fight the Medusa and aren't willing to look at things from a different perspective, you'll turn to stone as much as anyone else ever has. It doesn't matter if you're the strongest, if you're the smartest, it doesn't matter. What matters is if you're willing to adapt to change, if you're willing to look at things from a different perspective. And adapting to change too. You know, this Knight of Wands on his robe, on his cloak, is it's covered in the Ouroboros, the lizard Ouroboros, and it's that sense of karmic cycles. But the point of them is to cause you to change, so that you're not just going through the same cycle over and over and over and over and over again, not learning anything. That is the state of insanity. But to put yourself into the same position over and over and over again to learn something new while you're analyzing those things properly and then applying what you have learned, that's just the scientific method, and that can get you everywhere. Well, everywhere in this reality. It's all about how you do things that way. We have the Queen of Wands in the reverse, the Queen of the Thrones of Flame. And so again, it's not just about blind passion. It's also not about having passion. It's not just about having passions for the right things. Because even having a proper passion for the right things, if you don't have yourself properly aligned in the truth and aren't willing to look at things from a different perspective, you can still drive yourself into a wall. Especially if what you're looking at is something that's far away. Like I was talking to a friend the other day about it, but like if I'm trapped in the ocean, right, and I'm struggling against the waves so that I don't drown, and I'm looking for any sight of shore, and all I see is a buoy. But I know if I can get out to that buoy that I can be saved, right? So I'm just headstrong focused on the buoy. Well, that's the best thing that you can do, because if you get caught up in the tide and in the waves, you can be pulled in all sorts of different directions. But as long as you can still see where that buoy is, you can still move towards a set destination and towards something that you know that you can trust. And you can find yourself there, and that's how you move towards your destiny. It doesn't matter how the winds blow you. It doesn't matter what's going on otherwise, because you have to be, because you're keeping your eye on the prize, right? But in the same degree, if you're so focused on that prize that you're not aware of your surroundings, you can easily find yourself in, if you're not willing to look at if you're not willing to look at the things that aren't for you, and be aware of your surroundings that way, you can be so busy looking for what is for you that you get caught up by the things that aren't for you because you weren't looking at them, right? So if you're so focused on the prize that all you're looking at is that buoy and you're moving just straight towards it, you might not notice if there's sharks in the water that you need to be careful of, right? You might not notice if there's some giant wave swelling in the background that's about to swallow you whole and move you completely away. You know, you have to have a balance of both of these things. And so this Queen of Wands in the reverse is clarified by the Five of Cups in the upright. And it's a sense that you can be aware of what it is that you have lost, but don't focus on those things. Being aware of what you lost allows it so that you don't tip over these cups that you do still have, right? There's 3 cups spilled and turned over. But the issue with this card is always that he's mourning over what he's lost and not focusing on what he still has. Well, there's a whole mix of different issues with that. One, if he's not paying full attention, these are right behind him. He could easily step back and knock over everything that he still has just because he's still continuously mourning on what he doesn't. You could also, instead of taking your time to invest into the things that you have in order to bring them, you knocked over 3 cups. You still have 2 cups. Yes, that's less, but that's still more than having no cups. And so if you invest into them properly, you could end up with 3 cups. You could end up with 20 cups. But that's never going to happen if you don't focus on what it is that you do have and where it is that you are headed, right? And so it's easy to get caught up in the stress and the anxiety of what it is that you've lost and how far you've come and how, like I said, like you've gone through hell, all of the hells, just to get where you're at, and you realize that where you're at isn't heaven, it's just earth. Yeah, that can be a little disheartening, but it's also essential to our personal growth. It's also how we can appreciate the work that's been done in order to guide us forward. You're not supposed to look back on everything that it took to get where you are so you can be like, man, that was so much work, and poor me. Look at me, I can carry 500 pounds now. You know, like it's supposed to be like so that you can carry 500 pounds, right? That's the point. Not just so that you can hit these certain points. You know, I'm not in this for a championship where I can oil myself up and show off my muscles and everybody can be like, you're the strongest one on this platform. That's not what I'm here for. What I'm here for is to show other people that it's possible coming from where I've come in order to get where I'm going, in order to get even where I've gotten, and to continue to carry a certain load to make it easier for others so that they don't have to do so much. To be honest, it is for that purpose. It is so that I can carry other people's groceries when carrying 200 pounds of groceries is too hard for them. If I can carry 500 pounds easily, then yes, that is for me. That is for me. And I need to stop complaining about these things. I need to get back into where I am and who I am and why I do what I do and why I've always been who I am and why I do what I do. It isn't so other people can be like, oh, she's so nice. Oh, I love that person. It's never been for that. It's been because those are the things I feel truly in my heart, and that's the things that I want to see in the world. That's it. Okay. I don't mean to be yelling at you and yelling at the camera. That's where I am. Hopefully this has been a blessing for you, and that it's a reminder for you of where it is that you've been, where it is that you want to be, what it's going to take to get there, and that it helps you balance those things out so it doesn't feel like such an incredible burden, so that you're uplifted about how far you've come and encouraged about how far you have to go, in the sense that it's an adventure and it's something to look forward to. I'm sorry for the ways that I've been so arrogant in the past few readings, and then you could see that it definitely hit me and my energy was super low, and that was on me. I literally called for that and asked for that, and I just wasn't willing to see it that way. That's my own fault, and, I forgive myself for that. I hope that you can forgive me for that, and that we can move forward, looking at things a lot more clearly, and with a lot more sense of appreciation and clarity. And I appreciate my guides for bringing me to this, so that I can be in this space to be able to receive of those things clearly, to be humbled in this way, to be able to reflect on these things. I'll likely do another reading shortly, but I am going to take a little time to process this energy as well. I think it's necessary. But again, I hope that this has been a blessing to you as much as it has been to me. And that, yeah, whichever side you're falling on, whether it be, towards the side that's still waiting or towards the side that's continuing to push forward, or a balance between those things, I hope for strength for you, for grace for you, for peace for you in those things, for a sense of wisdom, a clear sense of your destiny, and the capacity to be able to discern what is truly right for you, and that you can move forward in that way. And I will see you in the next reading.